Get ready, because we are diving straight into a rapid-fire explainer of the absolute most terrifying, high-octane space anomalies humanity has ever recorded. Seriously, these are the exact mysteries that keep astrophysicists staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Let's get right into it. 9. That is the number you need to remember. Why? Because in July of 2012, our entire planet was exactly 9 days away from a civilization-altering disaster. Okay, let's dive into this. The sun suddenly erupted with this unimaginably violent cloud of charged particles. We're talking about a coronal mass ejection so massive, it was literally one of the absolute strongest we've seen in 150 years. It blasted through the solar system at record speed, and, amazingly, it barely missed our planet's orbit. But if it had hit us? Global darkness. A direct strike would have completely fried global power grids, knocked out all of our satellites, and pretty much destroyed the systems keeping us alive for years. It is chilling when you realize that pure luck is the only reason we aren't living on a devastated, totally disconnected planet right now. Earth had simply moved past that exact spot in its orbit just 9 days earlier. 124,000. That's the sheer number of square kilometers of Canadian wilderness that were abruptly showered with highly radioactive debris. This happened when the Soviet Cosmos 954 satellite unexpectedly crashed out of orbit back in 1978. Now, a fallen nuclear reactor scattering irradiated metal across an entire continent is terrifying, sure. But we're going to quickly pivot to another crisis. Because in 2018, the International Space Station faced an entirely different kind of terror. Now, what's really interesting here is that while investigating a dangerous drop in air pressure, the crew found a perfectly drilled 2-millimeter hole right inside a docked Russian Soyuz capsule. The dangerously smooth edges of this hole heavily implied intentional sabotage. A total mystery that's actually never been fully answered. Think about this: a chain reaction with no off switch. This incredibly urgent quote defines what's known as the Kessler Syndrome. It's a terrifying orbital collision theory first proposed in 1978. And the scary part? It might be unfolding right above our heads today. 28,000. That is the insane speed, in kilometers per hour, of hundreds of thousands of pieces of space debris that are currently circling the Earth. At those speeds, even a microscopic little fleck of paint transforms into a deadly, spacecraft-shattering projectile. Let's shift gears to the late 1990s. Shocked astronauts aboard the Russian Mir space station suddenly realized their home in orbit was literally being eaten from the inside by this massive, creeping biological invasion. So fungal growth started covering cables, windows, seals, you name it. And it didn't just barely survive the extreme radiation and microgravity of space. Oh no, it rapidly and dangerously adapted to it. These mutated space strains became more resilient, more aggressive. They completely resisted traditional cleaning methods and actually started degrading the synthetic materials of the station itself, which obviously posed massive biological risks to humans. Floating in space, eyes closed. Why do you see a flash? That is the exact, totally bizarre question that was consistently reported by the terrified Apollo 14 and 15 crews on their way to the moon. Imagine how unsettling that would be. Well, once they were outside of Earth's protective magnetic shield, incredibly high-energy cosmic rays were literally shooting straight through the thick metal spacecraft walls. And worse, they were passing directly through the astronauts' skulls. Every single one of those light flashes they experienced was a literal piece of deep space shrapnel, violently slicing directly through their brains and their retinas. And this brilliantly illustrates how the human brain actually panics when it's struck by these invisible particles. It instantly interprets the violent physical impacts as inexplicable bursts of light. Let's jump further into deep space, specifically to 1989. Contact lost. That was the sudden, incredibly eerie fate of the Soviet Phobos 2 probe, right as it was completing its mission around Mars. Just before the spacecraft mysteriously began spinning out of control and died forever, its final transmitted image revealed something wild. A massive, totally unexplained, elongated shadow falling heavily across the surface of the red planet. 102. That is the incredibly long duration in seconds of GRB 0606114. That was an impossibly powerful gamma-ray burst detected by a NASA satellite back in 2006. Now, normally, these extreme universe-shaking explosions are the signal for the violent collapse of a massive star. But this specific burst, it completely broke all the accepted rules of astrophysics. Even though it lasted well over a minute and a half, zero supernova explosion was detected. The event left absolutely no trace left behind, literally nothing. This terrifying invisible event actually originated in astonishing 1.6 billion light-years away. And to this very day, it leaves scientists completely baffled about its true nature. So, the crucial point is, if the universe can do this, what else is out there? What other horrifying, unseen anomalies are just waiting for us in the cosmic dark? We are floating in an infinite, chaotic void full of phenomenal dangers. Never stop questioning what's out there, and absolutely always watch the skies.